There are rumors that Nintendo is at the highest levels considering changing the name of Wii U sometime before E3 2012. And to that, I have to say that Wii is probably one of the strongest tech brands to come out of the first decade of the 20th century. I know when they first announced the name, a lot of people said, "Oh, Wii, that's such a bad name. No one's going to want to play a system named Wii. I'm still going to call it Nintendo Revolution no matter what they say. The Wii's never going to catch on. The Wii name sucks. The brand sucks. Everyone's going to make fun of it." And it's become a strong brand, widely recognized household name, one of the strongest tech brands to come out of the first decade of the 21st century. It would only make sense with the enormous success of Wii that they'd want to carry that brand onto their next system. And we have Wii U. And people still, probably even more so than with Wii, are still like really harping on how that name's so bad. They should change the name. The name sucks. The fact is, when people said, like, when they first announced Wii and they said, "Oh, the name sucks," Nintendo didn't have the chance to build that brand in the public conscious yet. And once it did, it just sort of became natural. And Nintendo hasn't had that chance to do that with Wii U yet. So it's already grown on me. I mean, of course, it's come into the vernacular of people who talk about, the upcoming systems. They know Wii U. And I don't know if Nintendo's really had a chance to build that brand up yet, because basically what I think Nintendo wanted to do with the intent of Wii was to create a console with universal appeal that invited newcomers, that appeased the softcore and appeased the hardcore and appeased the casual, and to a large extent, due to the Nintendo's system, they built it knowingly as a low performance system, and the sorts of graphically intense, a bit more grittier experiences, uh, the sort of games that were on 360 and PS3 that weren't considered for Wii, those games just lended themselves to higher performance hardware and high def output, and Wii simply didn't provide that. And I think that, perhaps more than anything else, is the reason we had a reputation and, to a certain extent, a reality of being a system that was decidedly had a casual appeal. Appealing mainly to casuals and to players of Nintendo exclusive games. At no point was Wii ever a system of choice for multi-console releases, or a to be the single console for gamers uh, whose interests lied outside of the Nintendo's exclusive games that were on the Wii. So I think with having a system that's more powerful, that outputs in HD, that can handle the sorts of experiences that are on the other HD consoles, I think, I mean, and I have to stress, everyone who didn't buy a Wii, all the hardcore gamers who didn't buy a Wii, even those who have a negative uh, perception of the Wii brand, they didn't. They don't necessarily hate Nintendo themselves. They didn't not buy the Wii, or they didn't find the Wii insufficient to their liking because they hate Nintendo. They just found it unsuited to the experience they wanted out of their console gaming experience. So to make a console that's more suited to that sort of experience, and to design new game ideas and new features accordingly that expand into both the casual and the hardcore and the softcore, they basically turn the idea of Wii, meaning like all of us playing together, with we're making a Wii experience that's universal, that's also tailor made for you. Reaching out to those to everyone individually, and not just as this sort of collective playing party games together. I think that's what they intended to express with Wii U, and they haven't built that up yet. And it's interesting. You may have noticed this. I paid close attention to this after what happened with the way Revolution turned out. Nintendo has never put on the Wii U prototype we saw at E3 and at a Consumer Electronics Show. There's no Wii U logo anywhere on that prototype. There is no Nintendo logo anywhere on that prototype. On the controller, there is no Wii U logo on that controller. There is a Nintendo logo on the controller. It's small and it's in the back, barely noticeable. And whereas, like, look what happened with Revolution is they started with that black Revolution prototype. They put Nintendo Revolution right on the front. The controller said Nintendo Revolution. Then by Tokyo Game Show, they took away the Revolution branding and just replaced it with a Nintendo logo. And then finally at E306, we had the Wii logo on it now with that new name. I think Nintendo, and the fact that they really sort of deliberately didn't place emphasis on the console, the prototype console, I think Nintendo, and they didn't put their name on the front of it. They didn't put the Wii U logo anywhere on the console. I think Nintendo was planning from the beginning to not necessarily attach a brand to that hardware, and to not to bring the hardware, the console, too much into public consciousness, to be able to make changes on the go with their strategy. And the fact that the Wii U reveal kind of blew up in Nintendo's face with people right beside me in the Nintendo World Store, the people following the news who traveled to Nintendo World to see E3, who knew a new system, a new console, repeatedly, endlessly. They said the successor to Wii, a new system to succeed the Wii, right then and there during the E3 presentation at E3 2011, saying, "Oh, it's not a real new system. It's just a new controller for Wii." And I'm like, no, it's. And throughout the, you may have heard it a bit in my coverage of it, but I was trying to explain to people right then and there. I understood that it's a new system. Wii U is the successor to Wii. It's not a tablet controller for the Wii. It's a new system with a new controller. And the and if the hardcore Nintendo fan gets confused with that when they first are pitched the idea of this new system, then that probably sent shockwaves through Nintendo saying, wow, if the base, if the people, like even like people on G4, like Adam Sessler didn't understand, was confused at what Wii was, even though they used the language new system, new console on stage E3. Even if these people are getting confused, we have to be explicit when we're marketing this to this softcore and casual and just the mainstream audience in general outside of the people who really closely follow game news. So it makes sense that perhaps, and no matter how popular we was, no matter how many great games we owners know are on the system and have played for themselves, even if they're not the exact sorts of games that are on the other systems, the, the fact is, no matter what, Wii U, no matter what, Wii has gained an unfavorable reputation with a considerable population of the hardcore gaming scene. And with a new system perhaps better equipped than anyone dared expect to compete directly with Xbox 720 in terms of its potential graphics output, attracting the attention of decidedly hardcore gamers, with Nintendo seemingly intending to reach out to gamers who never even considered buying the Wii, to developers who never considered developing for Wii, then perhaps the Wii brand needs to go. Perhaps a new brand needs to come on board. And it's interesting, thinking back to before E3 2011, there were strong rumors. Two things I heard a lot back then were that the new console would resemble the Super NES. The new hardware would resemble the Super Nintendo or the Super Famicom, and that it would be called Nintendo. Those were very strong rumors, and they're very interesting ones. Now, and another thing I forgot to mention, the Project Cars was announced for Wii U, and for a few days they had the Wii U logo up next to the PlayStation logo and the Windows logo and the Xbox 360 logo, and then all of a sudden the Wii U logo was removed from that website. So the Wii U logo was on the Project Cars website on a promotional images alongside other systems it was listed for. And for a couple of days, the news got out, and all of a sudden the logo got removed. The Wii U version wasn't canceled. The Wii U logo just simply was no longer there. Could it be the case that the Wii U logo was removed at the request of Nintendo themselves? I mean, think about it. Have we ever seen the Wii U logo being promoted outside of E3, used by developers who've already announced official confirmed Wii U projects? How often have they used that logo? How often have we seen that logo since E3 and in the and on the screen of the tablet controller, say at CES? They haven't really pushed the Wii U branding. They haven't featured on their prototype hardware. I mean, they could have easily put a Wii U decal on those prototype units we saw at in early January at Consumer Electronics Show. And for all that, plus the Wii U logo mysteriously disappearing from a site that just announced a Wii U version of a game from that's a third-party game, and then we have this rumor coming out about Nintendo. The rumor is that at high up at Nintendo that they are considering changing the name. Not that they will, but that they're considering it. And that if such a change comes, it'll come before E3. I say if a new name is announced, it'll be announced at Game Developer Conference. Iwata, for the last several many years, has done an official keynote to sort of at the beginning of Game Developer Conference, sort of half talking about the industry, half hyping up Nintendo for their E3 the month after next in March when Game Developer Conference has usually been held. So I think in Game Developer Conference, between Game Developer Conference and E3, at least a couple of weeks before E3, if the new name is going to come, it'll come for that new system. What sort of name will that be? Well, I think that Nintendo's going to want to announce the name before E3 because they don't want that to be a big distraction. Like they announced Wii, the name Wii Wii would be the replacement name for Revolution before E3, so that during E3 it wouldn't be the talk of the show and distract from the product itself. I think the sort of name we could expect something about the fact that Nintendo chose a horizontal front-loading console just like the NES. Somehow that aesthetically plays into the idea of calling the system Nintendo. Will it be the new Nintendo Entertainment System? Will it just be called Nintendo if the name changes? Will Nintendo sort of try to make a new abstract brand along the lines of Wii that's still completely unique from Wii? Will the name have Nintendo in the official branding? Like Wii, the Nintendo's 6th-gen console is named Wii. It's not named Nintendo Wii. Like in everyday conversation, fans call it Nintendo Wii, but it, the name Wii is not in the name of Nintendo's new system, like Nintendo Entertainment System, Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo 64, Nintendo GameCube, and then Wii was simply Wii. In fact, I've actually seen guides Nintendo released to the media and explaining that the system should just be called Wii or Nintendo's Wii and not Nintendo Wii. In North America, I've only seen one piece of promotional material from Nintendo itself referring to it as Nintendo Wii. And I think it seemed like that was just an oversight. Nintendo's been very consistent in referring to the system only as Wii. So will they include the Nintendo brand name in a new name for Nintendo 6 home console if it's renamed? Will Nintendo simply just want to leverage the strength of Nintendo itself and just call it Nintendo or Nintendo Entertainment System something? I mean, it's very exciting, the idea that it could be renamed. I believed in the Wii U name. I believed it had potential. I had a belief that when it came time for Nintendo to build this up, to show the full extent of this product, that the Wii U name would enter common vernacular. But if the name's going to change, if Nintendo sees it fit to change the name, I'm excited for that. One more surprise to anticipate for this year's E3, and I have to say, I expect Nintendo themselves referred to E3 2012. They said the final form of Wii U. I think that means to me that Nintendo was intent from very early on to redesign the console in some significant fashion. What we saw at E3 and at Consumer Electronics Show doesn't necessarily need to have anything to do with how the final system will look. They could remove the Wii branding, like they could change the name from Wii U to something having nothing to do with Wii, and then redesign the system completely to look nothing like the Wii. Same similar form factor, but they can make the system look nothing like the Wii. I don't know what to expect. I expect that maybe the fact that we've heard so many reports about it resembling the NES and Super NES or Super Famicom, I think that might have something to do with what we see in the final version of the system. I and I think that has something to do with the fact that, to a certain extent, what we saw at E3 2011 may have been a diversion tactic, may have been something just to hush the people up for now, to know that Nintendo was working on something. We're admitting it. We're reaching out to developers, and to show something completely different, completely strong, and very different and surprising from what people might have expected from the 8th gen Nintendo system. The controller, that tablet controller, at E3 2011 they called it the new controller. At Consumer Electronics Show, Nintendo consistently referred to it as the Wii U controller. Will it be called the Wii? If the name change of the controller change of the system changes, naturally the name of the controller is going to change from the Wii U controller. Will it be called the tablet controller? Does Nintendo even want to associate the Wii with the Wii U with a tablet? Uh, I think the controller is going to change. I think Nintendo is going to want to make the buttons stand out more, and the circle pads. The fact that they're buttons on that controller is very important in the image of the system, and I think they're going to want to make those buttons stand out a little more. Make it a bit more appealing to traditional gamers to say, like, what? How could I possibly play, my traditional games as I've been playing on 360 and PS3 on that thing? And having those buttons there shows that, make them more prominent, show that yes, the buttons are there. You will be able to play games in the traditional fashion with the enhancements of our new technology. That's all I have to say. This video is probably already longer than it ought to have been. I'm speaking sort of, just off the top of my head on this one. So, thanks for watching, and what form and identity will Nintendo's 6-home console take? We're back to square one. This was where we were at a freaking year ago. And, our perception of what this console could or could not be has already changed drastically since Consumer Electronics Show. Just in the last week, what Nintendo's new system may or may not be like has changed dramatically. So expect more surprises. That's what I have to say for now. Thanks for watching.